Start cleaning the set and pulling bits and pieces off it to facilitate that. I'm going to just say a few words about identifying parts. I'm making these videos for the benefit of people who have no experience whatever with working on old radios. And one of the baffling things I found when I was trying to teach myself to repair these old sets was that you could read a book that would describe the function of various parts, and that was understandable. But then when you looked at the chassis, often you didn't know actually which bit they were talking about because you didn't know what it looked like. So let me point out some of the obvious things. Now, clearly these are valves. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this set. And in sets of this period they're usually set out in a very logical sequence. Here we have the rectifier valve, which is responsible for converting the AC mains into a direct current that the valve circuits need to work. This largest valve is the output valve. That is the valve that drives the loudspeaker and provides sufficient energy to convert the audio signal into something that will drive a loudspeaker. This is the audio frequency amplifier. It's a stage of amplification of the audio signal prior to it reaching the output stage. It's also what's called the detector stage in the set, which converts the radio frequency signal to an audio frequency signal. That's an intermediate frequency amplifier valve. That's an amplifying stage in the radio frequency section of the set. And this first valve here is the frequency changer. We'll talk about that in more detail later. But clearly those are the valves. Now these things in metal cans are intermediate frequency transformers. Inside these cans, the cans are there to shield the transformers inside from electrical interference, are fine windings that pass the signal from one stage to the next. And you can see there's a wire coming out of that one there that's going to the top of that valve there. This is this sort of series of circuits going through the set, which we'll talk about in more detail later. Now this thing here is the output transformer. That is the providing the signal for the loudspeaker to reproduce, and it's in the output stage circuit. More about that again later. This thing here is the gang condenser. Now, a condenser is an old-fashioned word for a capacitor. And it's called a gang condenser because there are two sections to it, and those two sections are ganged together. When you turn the tuning control, they work simultaneously together. That's what gang means, or ganged means. In some sets there'll be 3 sections to this gang condenser because there's an extra stage of radio frequency amplification that has to line up with the other circuits, but in sets of this age and of this quality that's not provided. Now, I said earlier that this set is a bit unusual by having a number of presets, and this is the section that sets these presets. We'll look at that later when we're actually setting the set up, when we've got it going hopefully. In most sets those simply wouldn't be there, but there's an extra set of switching in this set that brings these in and bypasses sections of this to get to the preset stations. So what I'm going to do first of all is actually remove the valves so that we can get a brush in and remove all this muck. Now, a word about handling valves. The glass bulbs on the top of valves are glued in to these bases, these hard plastic bases. Don't try and pull valves in and out by just holding the glass, because you will detach it from its base and damage it. Always handle the valves by the bases, and because they may be a bit stiff to get out, it's quite in order just to get a screwdriver underneath and just encourage them. Yes? That one's going to come out reasonably easily, I think. Oh, excuse me, the clock's striking again. I'm not going to do that while I'm trying to hold the camera as well, because I could really use two hands to greater benefit. I'm going to switch this off now, and we'll come back to it when I've removed the valves and we can see what we're doing.